Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Rose October and you're with me on Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. Hope your week is off to a good start and I hope it ends with the production that you're expecting. So as customary, I tell you a little bit about the program before we really get into who my guest is and the work that my guest does. So Arts, Culture, and Things in Between is a program that features individuals who are gatekeepers of our arts and culture. They're not only performing artists, but also teachers, advocates, and scholars who focus on the preservation of the arts and culture. When arts is mentioned, it is being referred to as different art forms, such as visual, applied, or performing arts. Examples of visual arts would be painting, photography, and film. Examples of applied arts would be like in designing, building or constructing a project. For example, fashion designing would be considered applied art, where the fashion designer is working with different types of patterns and fabrics. Jewelry designing would be considered applied arts, where the jewelry designer is working with materials such as wood, plastic, metal, silver, gold, and various types of stones. Furniture designing also is considered applied arts, where the furniture designer is working with various types of woods and look at the way that the woods are layered, cut, designed. Then we talk about performing arts. Example of performing arts would be music, theater, opera, singing, drama, stand-up comedy, and the one that makes me burst out with a big smile on my face, dance. What can I say? Can't help myself. The middle part of the program's named Culture, Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. So when culture is mentioned, it generally means the way of life for a particular group of people. So for this program, it is inclusive to mean the various groups of individuals who embrace ways of life. In other words, looking at attitudes and behaviors. But what is important to note is that as culture is mentioned, I'm really looking at how practices are passed from one generation to another. Things in Between, the last part of the name of the program, has to do with life's issues that affect the execution of the arts and cultural practices. This involves both positive and negative experiences that become part of the creative process. Today's guest is a performing artist at hand, at heart, at foot, at everything, just embodies performing arts. But let me tell you a little bit about today's guest through an extensive bio. Philip Obediah Wright, known as Obediah Wright, is an artistic director, choreographer, master teacher, director, and producer. He was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. As a boy, he attended Our Lady of Victory Catholic School, then went on to LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts. At the same time, he attended Bernice Johnson Dance Studio and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. Following the completion of his high school education, his scholarship was further nurtured through his attendance to the reputable dance institution, Juilliard College. Hence, this creative's choreographies and performances not only demonstrate his eclecticism, but also his extensive training in dance idioms such as ballet, modern, jazz, Afro-Cuban, swing, and musical theater. These experiences have enabled him to engage in performance and teaching of various artistic genres. As a producer, Obediah has produced more than 30 ballets, with his most acclaimed creation entitled Higher Ground Still Rising. This production retraces the rich cultural heritage of the people of Africa through time, from pre-slavery through the Middle Passage to the 20th century. In 2006, the historic Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in New York has had the privilege of archiving this premiered masterpiece that has been named in the city of Newark, New Jersey's proclamation in commemoration of Juneteenth Day as a holiday. Obediah is the founder, artistic director, instructor, and choreographer of Balance Dance Theater and Balance Dance Academy for Children. His company has performed Higher Ground Still Rising at prominent institutions that include the Landmark, Riverside Church, the World Financial Center, and New Jersey Performing Arts Center. As a choreographer, Obediah made his debut on the silver screen as an assistant choreographer for the Fox Searchlight Pictures film, Black Nativity, featuring a star-studded cast with Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, Jennifer Hudson, and Mary J. Blige. In addition, his vast and distinct array of creative works not only include Black Nativity, but also The Liberation of Mother Goose, Sizzle Reel, Plain Girl, A Lovely Malfunction, Night Songs, From the African Village to Urban Village, The Mafa or Meafa, The Dream at 50, Kwanzaa, presentations for the U.S. Attorney General he has done, Message in the Music, tribute to Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, Scandalous, Lifted, Storm Stories, the Odelco Awards, Broadway Our Way, I Have a Dream, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Global Come, Women of the Black Panthers, Oya, Yoruba Dance Drama, Choreo Quest, Tomita Sound Cloud, Bahamian National Youth Opera Chorus, Two to Make It Right, Time Love, encapsulates most of Obediah's work. As a professional dancer, Obediah worked with the Dance Theater of Harlem. In addition, he has had the privilege of working with legendary artists such as Debbie Allen, Mbujeni Ngema, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross, Dionne Warwick, the Pointer Sisters, Janet Jackson, Erykah Badu, and Ashanti. In 2010, Obediah directed and choreographed Message in the Music, a tribute to living songwriting icons Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. He credits dance influencers and icons Michael Peters, Jeffrey Holder, and Chuck Davis for his successful journey. Obediah's versatility as a dancer, producer, actor, and singer has allowed him opportunities for acquiring roles in several off and on Broadway, television, and independent film productions, such as The Wiz, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Here, Fame, Bravo Channel Networks, Head of the Class, The Lion King documentary, Black Broadway and the Blues, Storm Stories, Maafa and Oya, winner of Odelco Awards for Best Production of the Year, and the award-winning short film, Lifted, where he made his acting debut. As a master teacher, Obediah possesses a very high proficiency in dance vocabulary and movement. This has been exemplified by his instruction and choreography shared at many notable institutions, including Alvin Ailey American Dance Center, Debbie Allen Summer Intensive, Balance Dance Academy for Children, Brooklyn High School of the Arts, University of the Arts, and many master dance series. Testaments to his ability to teach and choreograph using various techniques in modern dance, jazz, African musical theater and the Obadiah technique are noted throughout the United States and abroad in places such as South Africa, Japan, Hong Kong, Sweden, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Island, and Martinique, French West Indies. Many of Obadiah's students have achieved winning roles in major Broadway productions such as Stump, The Color Purple, Disney's The Lion King, Fela, West Side Story, Spider-Man, and Memphis, and Mamma Mia. They're also appearing on the runways of Paris, Milan, gracing the pages of Sports Illustrated, and earning the infamous trip to Vegas as competitors on So You Think You Can Dance television series. Over the years, Obadiah has been the recipient of a multitude of awards and recognitions for his artistic works and community philanthropy. These include and are not limited to the Senate citation, the award's sister, presented by Eric Adams in 2016, the Visionary Award for Black Men and Boys Who Dance in 2016, Stellar Choreography Award, Star of New York Dance, presented by Cheryl Todman in 2014, nominee of Honorable PhD of Fine Arts from Medgar Evers College, that would be a CUNY school in 2012, Award of Excellence in Recognition of Outstanding Contribution as an inspirational African-American leader in the field, of arts and entertainment and as living history, presented by the Brooklyn campus, Long Island University Student Government in 2011. City Council citation, Performing Artist, Brooklyn Arts Council, Intergenerations Dance Kings of Black Brooklyn, presented by Brooklyn Arts Council of New York 2010. Proclamation celebrating the accomplishments of Baba Obadiah Wright and Balanced Dance Theater, presented by Congressman in Towns 2008. Senate Resolution Juneteenth performance of Obadiah Wright's Higher Ground Still Rising, presented by the state of New Jersey in 2006. Certificate of nomination for Excellence in Black Theater Choreography, or OYA, the Adalco Awards in 2001. Today, in the United States, Obadiah continues to be a creative who is sought for his masterclasses. His professional expertise remains in high demand. Most importantly, he continues to mold the future generation of dancers as the founder, artistic director, and choreographer of Balanced Dance Theater, Inc., a dance company and dance school located in Brooklyn, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I say no more, but let's take a quick peek. I know I'm teasing you. Let's take a quick peek of who Obadiah Wright is. So for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Rose October on Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. And my guest today is Obadiah Wright. Welcome, Obadiah.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'd like to hire you to read my bio for the rest of my life. You're so eloquent. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And I just want to tell you, I just think that you are just so astonishingly beautiful. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. I'm so happy. You know, I read your bio. I've been doing some research on you, and I was just riddled with excitement because of your body of work. It's so extensive and to be proud of, I must say. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. You know, I don't think about what I've done in the past as much as what I want to do in the future. So it's good to hear it back every now and then because it does help you to remember, your own body of work, and just remember your own accomplishments, because sometimes as an artist, you don't get the opportunity to read it, or because you're so busy moving forward into the next realm of your life. It's not like you get up every morning and you know, this is going to be my desk, this is my job, this is where I work. You know, when you're an artist and you're self-employed, it changes all the time. So you have to constantly be on the go to create new things for yourself and to create new parts of your creativity. So it's good for me to hear what I've done as well. So I'm as excited to hear it as you are, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So we just showed a snippet, a very short clip, slideshow rather, of some pictures put together.
Yes.
You are just sailing through the air.
Thank you, thank you.
Through the air, and then the different shades of Obadiah. I can't wait to get into conversation with you, so you know. So let me ask you this. How, well, I should ask, what sparked your interest in dance as a child, or theater, whichever one came first?
It was dance. You know, my siblings were much older than me, so they always, whatever the social dance was, I could do it really well. They told me that I would be dancing in the crib, trying to hold on, and then I took ice skating as a kid. So they were like, well, maybe you should take dance classes. So they sent me, my mother took me to a dance school downtown Brooklyn at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And my first dance class was Dunham, the Dunham technique, which I loved because it was drumming, and it was, so that was my first real introduction to any kind of formal training. And I stayed there until I was ready to go to high school. And then I auditioned for LaGuardia High School Performing Arts.
Wow. How old were you? Do you remember when you had that first class at BAM? Were you single digits?
Yes, I think I was maybe eight.
Okay.
9.
Okay. Okay. And you knew then that dance was it?
Uh,
No?
you know, I was just having fun. I liked the drums. I had no idea what I looked like. The teacher, you know, thought I was thought it was very promising, and I was the only boy. Of course, I was the only young boy in the class, so you know, you got a little extra attention. But you know, I would dance like when my mom had company, you know, so they would like push back the coffee table, and I'd be in the middle of the floor doing, I have no idea what. But you know, my family and her friends supported me, and they would applaud, and I guess that was the beginning of me wanting to be a performer. That's how it started. It started at home.
You know, I guess you're peeking into my head, because my next question would have been, how was how involved were your caregivers in nurturing your interest in dance?
It was my mom, particular. My dad died right around the time I actually started dancing. So he passed maybe when I was third or fourth grade. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. So, and my mom was a musician. So she played piano and she sang like classical. I don't know if it was classical, but those a lot of those hymns. So she sang with this group, and they would come to the house every Sunday and rehearse, and I would go with them to all of their performances. So she was very, very supportive of me getting into the arts. Actually, I did my first professional job when I was maybe 9 or 10 years old. It was a print ad for Sears catalog. So I had an agent then, and then I did another one for Scholastic magazines. So maybe I was in the 5th or 6th grade, somewhere around there.
So mom was very involved, because if you're a kid, if you're a child, and you have an agent, mom is definitely involved.
Mom is definitely involved.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm curious though. So mom is pushing back the coffee table, and you have the center floor, and friends are around and they're applauding you. Did you ever think about singing or trying some singing in the back end, even if mom wasn't looking, because mom was having these women over to sing hymns and all of that?
No, I never thought about it. And there were, I think it was like 8 of them, and it was maybe 4 women and 4 men. So I got a good sound of what a bass, a baritone, a tenor, and a first and second soprano sounded like at that age. We tried piano lessons with me, but that didn't work. She sent me to this woman that lived down the block from me, and as soon as the woman would turn her back, I would be up in the middle of the floor, jumping up and down, trying to dance. So she says, "I don't think this is what your son wants to do." Yeah, and I didn't get far with it. There was like, I could play one little song really well that I still can play, and that's about that's about it.
So we can say that you have your signature piece on the piano. What can I say?
That was my signature piece on the piano.
Nobody.
Stepping down, then I skip. That was it.
Nobody has to know that there is no other. That's fine. So you began your life very young, at 8, 9, thereabout. And then a few years later, you went on to LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts.
Yes.
The connection between having your first dance class at BAM and then going on to LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts?
I'm going to tell you that at that moment, first of all, I had to audition. I didn't know that you saw the pictures in the high school book that they had people in tights and whatnot. I borrowed, I think I must have had, I don't know, they must have been my mom's stockings. I had my underwear on. It was, it was just completely wrong. I didn't know anything about ballet, anything. So I went to the audition, and then there was a callback audition. So I got the callback, and then I went again, and then they told me that I got in. So when I went the first day of school, it was a life-changing experience. I went to school in Brooklyn, in Bedford-Stuyvesant. I went to a Catholic school, and it was an all-Black school. So when I went to LaGuardia High School of the Arts, there were Asian people, there were white people, there were people that were, it was just such a mixture of people. And I saw the love and the connection between the sophomores and the juniors and the seniors, how they were hugging each other the first day of school and everything. So the freshmen, we're kind of looking like, wow, what's happening here? And then by the second week, you hear flutes in the hallway. You see people walking around in costumes, doing monologues, just talking to themselves, going over their work. And then you saw dancers in the hallway practicing and stretching and stuff. So it was a far cry from what I knew, being just a Brooklyn kid. I'm having to go to school in Midtown Manhattan, and just seeing all of this, just being exposed to all kinds of music, all kinds of dance, acting, everything changed. It changed everything about my life, everything.
Now, from that experience, okay, so you went from BAM, you auditioned, even you had your classes at BAM, you auditioned, you got into LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts. While there, what are your thoughts about becoming a professional dancer, if any thoughts of that?
Well, absolutely, there were thoughts about that. But when you're in high school, at that point, I didn't really know what to expect. I felt like, and I was told that I was talented and had potential, but you don't even know what that is, especially in the early stages. Like I said, freshman, sophomore year, you're just having fun. You're doing what you love, and that's what you should do at those formative years. You should have fun. You should learn. You should be a sponge. You should absorb. You should see everything you can see, and you should enjoy the process without having to think about, is this something I want to do for the rest of my life? Can I do it, or should I do it? So I'm glad that it wasn't, I wasn't shoving it down my own throat, and that my teachers were not pushing it on me like that either. So the answer would be no. I had fun. I loved that time. And then I met my closest friends, and we're still close to this day. So that was the wonderful thing. And that's the wonderful thing about art, is that it breaks down so many barriers, because you go through, for lack of a better word, you go through so many different rites of passage, moments. You know, you can't get the step, you can't get this, rehearsals are hard. And so you're going through this together. So it gives you a bond that I've kept I've kept all these years. So, yeah.
No, it's so refreshing to hear you say that you didn't think about it and you were just having fun. Mm-hmm. That's what should happen during those formative years, because there might be a handful of people that I know who would say, when I was a kid, I know this is all I wanted to do. And then there's some of us who just fly by the pants and just go wherever the wind blows, because we know for sure that we have something,
right,
that's budding. We know it's probably going to morph into something. We will morph into something, but that's something we don't know. So I'm glad to hear you as we sit and you reflect that, you know what? I was just having fun. And that's what makes the job easier now as an adult, because you grew up having fun doing something that you love. But we'll get to that. I'm getting all excited for you, can't you tell?
I'm excited too.
So let's take another peek, Obediah, at some of your work, and then we'll chat some more. How about that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's very clear. Our love is here to stay. Not for a year, but ever and a day. The radio and the telephone and the movies that we know may just be passing fancies, and in time they go. My dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time, the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. They're only made of clay. Our love is here to stay.
Wow, wow, wow. And look at that 6 o'clock that we stitched in there at the end. So what came to mind, Obediah, when you watched that short clip?
You know, those are two good friends of mine that they were former dancers with the Alvin Ailey dance company. And I had just started Balance Dance Theater, and that was at the Schomburg. And I love all kinds of music. My mom played jazz. We listened to jazz in the house. And my dance teacher out in Queens, her husband was a very famous jazz musician. So I grew up watching movie musicals. There were not a lot of Black musicals other than Stormy Weather. So I watched Ginger Rogers and Sid Charisse and all of that. So I've always wanted to recreate those kind of things, but for Black dancers. So I'm looking at that. I'm thinking back to how that went, and I choreographed that ballet in maybe about 2 hours because they were so familiar with each other, and I was so close to both of them. So it was fun. It was a pleasurable experience, and especially when you have two artists that are just beautiful dancers like that.
Yeah, and it's obvious that they were comfortable with themselves, that they were able to
They've
emote.
been dancing together for almost 15, 16 years. They were partners in the Ailey company. So when I needed someone to dance with her, she referred him, and that's how that happened. So it happened just like that.
And I mean, you can feel the chemistry between them, you know, and I think that's always a beautiful thing when the audience can be a part of the choreography, the art, the audience becomes a part of what's happening on stage.
And that's the gift of being an artist, is that you get the opportunity to put your soul on stage or in music or through your voice, and it encapsulates the people that hear it or see it. And that is the thing that heals and shifts the energy of everything in the universe. It's a tone, it's what you hear, what you feel, it's what you sense at the cellular and cellular level. That's what makes you move, you know. So I love being able to have artists that know how to convey that, because I want my audience to come in to my living room, so to speak, and turn on the television and be completely entertained. I don't want them to be in a theater. I want them to feel like they're at home, where they're totally comfortable and safe, and they can let their own emotional self get involved with what they're watching and what they're hearing.
Love it, love it, love it. So I want to swing all of that to you now.
I love how you say, I want to swing.
Yeah. To you as a dancer, what critiques have you had from your dance teachers?
Focus, do it again, do it harder, do it stronger, do it bigger. Don't give up. It's always more, more, more. It's always more, more, more. Stay focused.
No, were you?
Go ahead. It's your world.
No, stay focused, you know, repetition I heard. Now, were you being told this because your dance teachers knew you had more to give and you weren't giving it?
I think that they saw the talent and the potential. And when someone has talent and potential, you have to be pushed, and you've got to instill motivation. You've got to give them support. So for me, it was just them being available to just keep me disciplined, and just to keep this talented person, this ball of energy, just to keep it on the right path. Again, when I went to Bernice Johnson's dance studio while I was in high school, one of my teachers, who became my spiritual mentor there, Leako Thompson, he taught us about Egypt and ancestry and the pyramids and herbs and fasting. And he would put all these things in the dances. So it wasn't just the rudiments of dance, it was the spirituality and the cultural aspect of dance, and the emotion and the spirituality that comes from the movement, from the earth and from the sky, from the water, from all those natural elements in the world that help to shape an artist. So that's the kind of support I got. I loved doing what I was doing. I would do it all day. I never wanted to leave the dance school. Now, I got in trouble when I was a kid because I would stay out really, really late And then when we finished, we would dance up and down the street all hours of the night. You know, you could do that when you were a kid then. We loved each other as children, and we loved what we were learning. So we were not disciplined in that way. It was just keep going, be great. And we came from a great legacy of dancers and choreographers in the business out of Bernice Johnson. Some of the people in the other classes had choreographed movies already. They had been on television. They had been on Broadway. So then we began, and they would come back and teach us. So then we wanted to do what they were doing, of course. We wanted to have our moment to be that kind of choreographer. Michael Peters was my first teacher at Bernice Johnson. Michael Peters was the co-choreographer of Dreamgirls. He choreographed the Beat It video, Thriller, the Broadway musical Coming Uptown starring Gregory Hines. So these were the people that were our teachers. Our teacher was Baba Chuck Davis, who was the founder artistic director of Dance Africa. So these were the teachers that we grew up having from children. So we had great, great teachers. So it was our destiny to follow in their footsteps. So it wasn't even a thought or a drive. It's just what had to be. It was implanted. That seed was planted in us in our early teens.
Love it, love it, love it. And you had to pay attention, because I'm thinking being surrounded with all of the greatness, so to speak, and I'm thinking also back then, it would have been a fantastic thing for young boys to aspire.
Right.
In this world of the arts and dance and the arts, pretty much across the board. What sacrifices have you had to make as a dancer?
At that age, there were no sacrifices. As I got older, there were sacrifices. As you get older, you know, to whom much is given, much is required. So you can't do, or you shouldn't do the things that you see going on. I couldn't hang out. I wasn't on the street a lot. I was practicing. If I wasn't at home, I was at a rehearsal. So if there was a sacrifice, it would have been not having outside friends, so to speak, the people that you go through that fantastic artistic experience with is who became your friends. They became your brothers and your sisters. I missed family outings, being on tour, being out of the country. You miss Christmas, you miss small things like that. Well, they're not small things, they're big things. But when you're in the middle of another part of the world, experiencing life at a whole different frequency, it's not that big a deal for you. So anything else I had to sacrifice? Time, because all of your time is devoted to the art form itself. That would be it.
Because we're talking about sacrifice, and that was my word. Any injuries experienced throughout your I'm sorry.
Gosh, that's a good question. Knees, back, ankle, hip, neck, shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, so you always have ice pack, heating pad. I learned to massage myself because you have to. If you're performing and you're traveling around the country or around the world, you don't always have somebody to go on stage for. You don't always have an understudy. So you've got to dance sometimes on a swollen knee, bad back, bruised ankles, feet, neck out of alignment, not feeling well, stomach issues. You know, you're eating different foods in different parts of the world. So of course you get off the plane, you're hungry. Doesn't always work that way when you have to dance a lot. One thing we learned as kids was that it's not show business, it's the business of the show, and no matter what, the show has to go on. So it gives you a certain kind of focus and discipline, which is all they said to me when I was a kid, was that no matter what, you have to finish. You have to complete this. And sometimes, you know, you're injured, you have no voice. You can't, you know, you literally at the end of what you think there is. And then when the curtain opens up, somehow this magic happens. And you have the support of the audience, you have the support of God, you have the support of ancestors, and you get yourself through. You might fall apart when that's over, but you absolutely do get injured. Yeah, because it's very physical.
Yep. And you know, and it's, I have to throw in that about injuries, because the love for the arts, the love for the craft allows us not to think as injuries as, or dancing through performing injuries as sacrifices.
Right.
Stuff there.
You're sacrificing things on that side, but on the other side, there's that hunger, and there's that drive, there's that deep innate connection to the divinity of the art itself. And at that moment, you can push past the pain. You can push past the discomfort. So I learned about herbs. I mean, I started learning them when I was a kid. So I learned about herbs. I learned about what kind of homeopathic things to take. I learned how to massage, and then dancers wind up massaging each other because you got to take care of each other. So I never looked at that as a sacrifice. It was just par for the course. I've danced on, I had 3 blisters on one foot, 2 blisters on the other, and you got to go on. You have to go on. Your feet are hurting. Your body is hurting sometimes. When you get out there, especially if you're dancing with a live orchestra, the music is wonderful. People are applauding for you. There's nothing like that in the world. And to know that you pushed yourself to get through gives you drive and determination and focus. So even when I'm teaching now, when I'm working as a director or choreographer, I'm always encouraging and pushing the envelope, because you have to be prepared for the best and for the worst case scenario at every time the curtain opens up. You have to.
Definitely. So this is a question that may place you in a space of discomfort, but I'm just going to prepare you with that.
Okay, I may or may not answer it, but okay.
Realize that I made it. You know, what happened? What was the event that you just felt good about yourself, and you know that you're at the top of your game? When?
That's happened many times. That's happened many, many times, and I'm praying that it continues to happen. There's not been, gosh, there've been so many, thank God. I'll tell you a recent one. In December, I did Kwanzaa at the Museum of Natural History. Kwanzaa in New York at the museum is the biggest Kwanzaa in the country. I believe it's over 20,000 people that come in and out of there during the course of the day. So I went on ABC, NBC to talk about it, and I did the interview and everything. And then what so happened was I wound up not being here. I was in Las Vegas doing another project. So people didn't even realize that I wasn't there. So I had trained my assistants to run that show in front of all those people while I was in Las Vegas working on another project. And then I had another project going up at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, in front of maybe 3,000 people. And all of that happened at the same day. I was not on the side of the country. I was in Las Vegas working on another project at the West Las Vegas Performing Arts Center. So when I see those kind of things happening like that at one time, when I finished and when I came home, when I knew that everything went well and that I called to check in on everybody, and I prayed for we prayed together. Thank God we have FaceTime and WhatsApp now, so I can kind of micromanage and see what was going on. But when all that was over, when I got through that day of thousands of people watching my work at one time, when I finished and I was going back towards the airport, that's when the tears came. That's when, yes. And that's when That's when you feel like you win. I've had that many times in my life at different intervals. My first time going to Japan, um, teaching over there for 5 weeks, the accolades and the understanding of how they embraced Black art and Black me. So when I was leaving, tears. Coming home with all these kimonos for my family and just being able to be out of the country, those kind of things. Working with someone like Dionne Warwick and Ray Charles and Manhattan Transfer, and having to direct a 7-camera shoot in another country where the camera crew doesn't understand English, having to do those kind of things. Working on the first cell phone commercial ever shot in Johannesburg, South Africa, right after they lifted apartheid. Taking 7 young children with me, my students with me from America, putting them on a plane with one parent, being responsible for all that, working with Zulu dancers, working with South African tap dancers, and creating an orchestra, because they were having this debate over the music, creating an orchestra of the rhythms between the American tappers, the South African tappers, and 23 Zulu dancers, putting all that together. I said, okay, now let's shoot it. Those kind of things. And so it happens over and over again if you stay the course. But in the middle of that, there are the times where the self-doubt kicks in. There are all the jobs that you go up for to audition for that you don't get. That you have to still be tenacious. You have to still focus. You can't give up. You can't give in. And sometimes you go in, I've gone into audition for things, for film roles, and there are 8 Black men that look just like me. My height, my complexion, my features, dreadlocks. And there's only one of us can get it. And sometimes you know the people that you're auditioning with. So those kind of things happen. Those are the things that you don't see or that they don't talk about after the audition. A major recording contract, a major role in a television series. They see hundreds of people. Only one gets the job.
I have to ask you this before we take another peek at your work. What would you consider your best qualities as a dancer?
I would say the force of the movement and the intensity of the storytelling.
Give me a little more. Force of the movement, intensity of the storytelling. Force of the movement, I am thinking, if I can put on my old dance shoes and old dance, force of the movement, intensity of the storytelling. I'm thinking they meet somewhere in the middle on stage, right?
They absolutely do.
Of the force of the movement and the storytelling. What is the mindset for you as you deal with the force of the movement and the storytelling?
The mindset is to take the entire audience, no matter how big, how small, and have them right here in your hand and take them and put them right up against your chest so they can hear and feel your heartbeat. They go in, you allow them to go inside of who you are, and you're telling them that story from the very depth of who you are as a human being, as an artist, as a man, as all of that. And that's the thing that I love about my skill set, is that I like big movement. I like dramatic things. I like dramatic pieces of music. I like well orchestrated music. And I like to move big, fast, and strong. Did I take you in enough?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. I love it. I love it. I love it. The piece with bringing the audience in. I mean, as dancers, I think that it could be challenging for that dancer who lacks the emotion. They might have everything else, you know. They might have the you know, the
Ability,
tension,
that, yeah.
sharpest point, and
Mhm.
all of that. But really, and back in the day, in my time, we would call them mechanical dancers,
Yeah.
right? Going through the movement. And there would be somebody who got half of the height and the develope, and you know, and half of the arabesque and all of that. And that person is really able to suck in the audience
Right.
and help.
Right.
It's
And
like,
I was never allowed to only rely on my facility. I was never allowed to do that. Yes, my feet do this, I can jump like this, my legs do this, I could, all of that is wonderful. But if you are not telling somebody a story, if you can't take, you can't, if you can't be vulnerable enough as an artist, as a human, as an entity, if you are not able to understand the force and the blessing of you connecting with divinity to step out in that arena and take that audience and hold them for that moment, you're not an artist for me. You know what I mean? You can hear a singer, the first few notes, when they have you on the edge of their seat, you know that that is the connection. In the church, they call it the anointing. But you know, if you go back and you listen to African songs, and when they just the wail, the emotion, the intensity of it, the story, you believe what they're singing about. You believe what someone's playing when they get into that improv and they close their eyes. You can see all the other stuff happening. And that's what I loved about, that's what I love about myself. That I wasn't afraid to let people in and let people see the vulnerability with the force, with the aggression, with the speed, with the technique, with the agility, with the comedic timing, with the precision, all of that. But you gotta take them in. And like when I look at stuff now, if you cannot move me off the edge of the seat, I'm gonna be on my phone. So I tell everybody that I'm working with now, I said, listen, we're in a time now where the attention span is less than this. So if you don't know how to grab them right away and hold them, not just hold them, but hold them and nurture them, you lost them.
love it, love it, love it. Let's look at some more of your work. For those of you who just joined me, Rose October, and Arts, Culture, and Things in Between, my guest today is Obediah Wright, dancer, choreographer, director extraordinaire, and all of those things, and you know, founder of Balance Dance Company. And we'll talk more after we watch a little more of him.
It's been wonderful. It started out maybe with 15, 20 people. It was first done at the Schomburg Library for Research in Black Culture. It started out maybe about 25, 30 minutes long. It's evolved to now a full-length work, which is an hour and 50 minutes.
being out of the country, I was told that I didn't have a culture, that my people didn't have a culture. In order to make history, one must know history. I created Higher Ground, Still Rising, out of a need for African Americans to delve deeper into the rich culture and legacy that we come from. This piece is what I call edutainment, entertaining and educational all at once. It's music, dance, singing, multimedia, all wrapped in a gift from our great ancestors. The piece has been done several places in front of thousands of people and very well received. But the goal here is to get the piece to travel around the country. There's an arts and education component with this. And how wonderful is it for our young people to come home and tell their parents, Ma, today I was Shaka Zulu. Today I was Queen Nzinga. Today I was Frederick Douglass. With the lack of African American history in our school curriculum, we are definitely and clearly at a deficit that can potentially turn lives around by this one particular work.
One of the things that I love about the piece is that the intergenerational aspect of it. There are people from 2 months old to 22, and some of them that started out as 5-year-olds in the piece are now 15 years old. So they've grown up from being little kids in the slave ship to doing extra pieces in the work. So they've actually gotten a chance to know something, to be a part of history in the making.
Wow, I joined the audience. So I was there. Congratulations. That was awesome because the teaching moments,
Yes.
you know, the teaching moments, there were so many teaching moments there, Obediah. And, you know, I view that piece that we just watched from the perspective of you being that holistic figure.
Yes.
Which you're bringing all of the different aspects of theater together.
Awesome.
I'm talking about dance right now because we have to think about dance and movement. Yes, the singing, the lights, the cameras, the staff at the theater, and every piece and every person that would make this production whole. But before we get into that, I want to ask you about your baby that you formed, Balance Dance Theater. I want to ask you about that.
Okay.
Now, what propelled you to begin your own institution of dance?
I've been teaching. I started, again, thank God for Bernice Johnson. I started teaching when I was 15. So I was a student teacher. So she said, you're going to teach much longer than you're going to dance. Learn now. Don't wait until you have a good dance career and then learn how to teach. She said, it's going to be too late. So we would teach all day. And when I was maybe 17, my first class, I would go in with her, and we had 90 babies from 3 to 6 years old. So they had an hour of tap, an hour of ballet, and an hour of African. And once she saw that I could handle them, she let me alone. So they became my babies. So that was the beginning of me teaching kids and doing all those kinds of things. So I wanted to form Balanced Dance Theater actually in Japan because I had a business partner that I was working very closely with there. And, the partnership kind of dissolved, as partnerships do. So I saw what was happening here in the States with people not getting funding, with Black companies not getting funding, and people needing a place to be and to work. So I started working on giving birth to Balanced Dance Theater. So then we became not-for-profit. And, the mission is to collectively turn out balanced human beings in the community by way of art. So there's the social justice piece, there's the spirituality and cultural aspect of Balanced Dance. All of these things come into play. And outside of that also, I wound up developing a young men's rites of passage group also. So I've serviced maybe about, over the past 10 years, maybe close to 40 young men that I still have very good relationships with. They came to Balanced Dance Theater when they were like 5 and 8 years old. So they're in college now. So that was the first group. And so now we've had 2 or 3 other groups after that. So Balanced Dance Theater is really, the goal is really to create a place of adult outreach, social nurturing, nutritional nurturing, and artistic nurturing all at the same time. I've taken my children and I use them in every project that I have if I can. They've done commercials. They were on daytime talk show with me, The Chew. They are in music videos. Wherever I can put my children that come right out of Brooklyn, and I've been their only teacher, especially the young men in particular, I use them and I give them that experience. They've been on, at 8 years old, they performed in front of 2,800 people at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, in front of 3,500 people at the World Financial Center. So, and then I also like doing intergenerational works as well, so that it gives the younger members of the school the opportunity to work with the professional dancers so that they can see and aspire to be that. And even if they don't aspire to be dancers per se, the focus and the discipline that is required of any art form helps them in any aspect of their life.
Definitely. I so believe it. I remember growing up as a child and I was very shy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm very shy now. My friends laugh at me when I say that.
Actually, I'm shy too.
Yeah, but if I'm thinking that we know if we have to step out in front of an audience or in front of the camera, we just know what to do.
Yeah.
We need to get done and then we go back into our little cocoon. But some folks have a difficult time understanding that. But I could tell you, I so identify with what you just said, because dance is truly a disciplined art form.
Absolutely.
So many different ways. We learn how to do life by becoming a dancer.
You learn how to do your life, and you learn how to do everybody else's life. You learn how to manage yourself. You learn how to manage other people, especially if you are a teacher. It's a natural progression for a dancer to become a teacher, and then a choreographer, and then a director or a producer. Or, you move around all of those things in this one realm. And the dancer's body is highly athletic and extremely strong. It's not like going to the gym where you work one piece of the body at one time. You're working all of that machinery at one time at varying speeds based on the music. Mm-hmm. And you have to convey an emotionalism on top of that. And you're dancing with other people.
Oh,
So it's a lot. There are a lot of components. So, you know, we're able to multitask well, you know, because we're learning, you know, you're doing 4 different projects at once, you're learning choreography from this one, from this one, from this one, from this one. If you're acting, you're studying a monologue. So that's why it was easy to start acting for me, because from dancing so long and from choreographing and teaching, you can memorize things really easily. So it, you know, but you do have to learn how to speak. Dancers have to learn how to speak. You have to learn how to ambassador. You have to learn how to sell yourself to others when you're speaking, not just with your arms and legs and you've got to learn how to use your voice. And that's another art form that dancers have to master. And when you're running an organization, when you're working as a director or producer in particular, you have to know how to sell yourself and to sell your product.
And then you also have to pay attention to how you're passing down not just the knowledge and the art of dancing, but how to do all of these things with your voice in terms of presentation.
Exactly, and building and working to build your legacy. And that's been an important aspect of my work. So like I said, I was in Las Vegas working on something, and my assistants who had trained with me since they were little, I trained them to do that, to run a show in front of 20,000 people, to sit in there with a staff that didn't know them and didn't know I wasn't going to be there.
Nice.
And then the wonderful thing was one of my mentors was there, watching these 3 young Black men in their early 20s run Balance Dance Theater without me being there.
Nice.
Other thing, you have to empower people, and in order for you to build a legacy, you've got to train people. You've got to leave good hieroglyphs. You've got to leave good hieroglyphs. No man is an island. You can't keep everything to yourself and only yourself, because you don't expand, you don't grow, you don't evolve, and neither does your vision.
Right. And trusting also. Trusting is a big factor, because
you can trust when you train them, because you've instilled the work ethic. You know what they're going to do in those kind of scenarios, and you give them each scenario so that if anything happens, they're not going to waver from the directive that you've given them. So that happens before you get to a place that large.
But I got to say to you, Obediah, there are some situations whereby the training happens. The seeming, I did say seeming, the seeming passing down of the knowledge and skill happen. But guess what? That trust factor is not there. And I've seen it many times in this artistic arena, whereby the person leading the project has other younger folks maybe, or others, could be comparable in age, who are supposed to run with this. But a question might be asked of the person who is overseeing the project, and all of a sudden, he or she's right back in there and they're running with it like if they didn't have others there who should be doing this. And that's why I raised the piece about trust. But let me ask you about, how do you recruit for balance? But while you're thinking about that, what is the difference between a dance school and dance company? Just in case there are folks out there who might be wondering.
The dance school and a dance company. The dance company, I pay them, and the dance school pays for lessons. That's the black and white of it. So, and the dance school is for children, teens, and adults. A lot of times, I'm very impassioned also about getting my parents involved, my fathers especially, getting them to dance or getting them to be on stage at the end of the recital to just uplift them. And when you have a dance company, you're building to salary them. So you're building to, you've trained them through the school, and then you put them into the professional slots where you are now working to salary them.
Okay. Now, how do you recruit dancers for the company who may be old enough for the company and didn't come up through your school?
They've got to go through a training process, as with any organization. They'll go through a training process with me, and that's pretty much it. You know, when their jobs are coming up, because I know a lot of people. So if there are projects coming up, I can just call people and say, can you come in and do this? Are you available to do that? Because of course, funding is very, very challenging, as all of us know. And then having board development is very difficult. So a lot of times I can hire them and put them on a commercial project that I'm doing. And then they'll come in and do something with the dance company. So it kind of moves around like that. The children, they kind of come by word of the mouth. I have one of my parents, I have their whole family. I have their whole family. Thank God. I love you, June, if you're listening to this. She bought her cousins, her nieces, the nephews. I've had maybe about 7 or 8 of them. And then that means that, you know, I go to the birthday parties, I go to graduations, I check report cards.
Yes.
I show up at school when they're not doing what needs to be done. It's much more than 5, 6, 7, 8 do step for me. When I'm home, my children know that they have to be accountable to me and their parents. So I'm checking report cards. If they're being undisciplined at home, they're going to tell me when they come in. They're going to tell me. So it's a wonderful thing so I'm really building from a family space, and then I can move them into other professional arenas that I'm already in myself.
You know, again, I'm listening to you, Obediah, and you're so much to be commended for the work that you're doing, because it's not about cha-ching as in the money. It's more about how you mold individuals to become upstanding citizens as they use theater or whatever tools they have as the artistic art form, you know, to make a difference.
Yes.
At large.
And from the community side, it's not about that. But on the commercial side, it absolutely is about the bottom dollar. Yeah. And even on the community side, because, you know, I want a building. I need a substantial annual budget to run Balanced Dance Theater so that I can have staff, so that I don't have to do all these things or ask people to help me to do them, to keep the kids and the company and all that stuff going. So I've got to do work commercially to take care of myself and to sometimes take care of them. And sometimes I wind up scholarshiping a lot of the students because of financial constraints of some of the parents. So that comes out of the money that I make outside. So I have to do both.
Yeah.
I love doing both.
We can have a whole different chat, you know, on another day. And I'm serious about this.
Okay.
The funding aspect of the work that you do, because I'm a board member of an organization, Gynecultural Association, and the kind of ambitious work that we would like to do, we are not even getting, you know, 1/8 of the funding to really allow this to jump off.
Yes.
And I was really thinking about what you mentioned about molding the lives of the young ones that are entrusted in your care. And it must be uplifting for the parents to know that your involvement with their children is not just they come to balance and that's it. That you're in and you're nurturing.
Birthdays, it's not that. And even at the company level, it's the same thing. And if you because again, at a school like Bernice Johnson, that's how it was. We would go to her house on weekends. She would cook for us. So it was, you know, we would be at our mentor, our co-host house. He would sit us down because our co had been going to Egypt since the 70s. So he has things and artifacts that you can't find now. He just passed away maybe 3 years ago. So I helped to put his funeral together. So they're pieces of granite that came out of the pyramids. So I was raised like that. So even when I'm doing commercial projects, I'm working on a major motion picture and people will still like, Obadiah, can you massage my shoulder? So I'm who I am wherever I go. So, and that's the only person I know how to be. But you've got to pull that money down. It is about the dollar and the sense, because if you don't have it, all the people that you've trained, they've got to go on now and sustain their own lives. So that's a sad and hurtful moment for me that I've experienced many times. But until you have that in place, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do.
So I have to ask you this before we look at more of your work, Obediah. I've read about the Obediah technique. Let's talk about that. What is Obediah technique?
Obediah technique is, again, it's who I was as a dancer, as an artist. There's an extensive training period where your stamina is built up, where your physicality gets changed through the technique that I have devised to change and resculpt the dancer's body to do the movement that comes in and through me. So you have your rudiments, your ballet, your modern, your African, and then that's encapsulated in a spiritual, culturalistic, metaphysical bubble, so to speak. And that's the basis of what the Obediah technique is. If someone looks at my work, they're like, Obediah did that, Bob Obadiah did that. They'll look at it, they'll see the signature. It won't look like everything else.
Is it a movement or something? What?
Say that again?
Is there a particular movement, or it is just what is being exuded?
It's a particular style of movement.
Okay.
And it's also what is exuded. My hands are very, very, you'll notice my dancers' arms, their fingers, and I tell them, I said, every part of your body tells a story. So you look in other traditions, the Indians use their fingers, their arms, Egypt, all those things, all those historical and cultural things I've encapsulated into
this and this.
I don't necessarily do those things, but if you look, you can tell somebody that's worked with me.
Okay.
Even if they're not doing my work, you can tell. You can tell that they studied with me. And then when they start teaching themselves and choreographing, I can see the thing.
Okay. Good. I just wanted to ask about that because.
Is it clear enough for you?
I'm sorry?
Is that clear enough for you?
It is, because I wanted to understand more of your legacy. You know what I mean? Because once I hear Obediah technique, I'm thinking legacy.
Exactly.
That's what I'm thinking.
Business, infrastructure, monetizing. Yes.
Yep. I hear you. Now let's look at some more of your work, Obediah.
I don't know what you're going to show, but okay, I'm like this too.
そうよ。いつの海外引っ越しにつにお任せを。いつは信頼のハートをつなぐサービス海外引っ越しは3つ。
Wow. I saw a younger Jermaine Victor in there.
Yes. I met him through Wayne. I must tell you all the choreography is a little out of sync. In the editing process. It got out of sync for you. So things are moving a lot faster. So yeah.
Being a perfectionist here now, Obediah.
You know it because you never know who's watching. So I always want to give people that disclaimer. And if someone else is watching that's a choreographer, they're going to say it's out of sync.
Yeah, but you want to hear something though? Depending the engineer, the lead engineer is not there, Raul De Silva. He would have given us a good little pep talk about why it would appear a few seconds delayed because of how it's being replayed.
I mean, it's okay as long as I say
yes
that there's a delay and it's not. If I show you the footage, it doesn't look quite like that.
I know
for now.
I know that because I've seen it, but we'll tell them where to see more of your work at the end. And I want to thank Samuel in the back end for doing a wonderful in the absence of Raul today. But we watched a variation of your work there just now, right? In the clip, we started with you and the star powers that you met, and then we went into the commercial and then the piece on Black nativity. I want to focus a little bit here on you as a master teacher. And I know you've done extensive work here in the United States and internationally. You've gone to South Africa, Japan, Hong Kong, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and Martinique, and French West Indies. Now, in addition, your work in the United States has exposed you to all of, well, I shouldn't say all, but many notable Black stars and other stars, as we've just seen in the slideshow. What does it mean to be a master teacher?
A lifelong commitment to study. A lifelong commitment to perpetual learning. It's not like you go to high school 4 years, you get an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, then you get a master's degree, and then you're a master. Mastering an art form is very, very different. And this is also one of the few businesses where your academic accolades don't necessarily get you in the door unless you're going to teach, at a university. So studying, mastering, you're not a master at anything, a master teacher, master choreographer, master director, producer, any of those things until you really hone in on mastering self. So once you begin to master self, that's when you understand your own machinery, what you hear, how you tune in, how you tune up your auric creative field, and how you reach out and touch people that you're working with, and not necessarily just on a teaching level. Because when you're a teacher, I'm a teacher when I'm directing, I'm a teacher when I'm producing, I'm a teacher at the supermarket if somebody does something wrong. You're a teacher all the time once you realize that's innately who you are and part of your spiritual packaging that you were put here to do in this incarnation. Mastering self makes you the master. I don't give myself the title of master teacher. Other people have done that and deemed me that because I've earned that in the professional community and in the eyes of the community and in the eyes of the parents of the students, young men in particular, that I've taught and trained. So that's a vast question, and I'm not finished mastering self. We're not finished mastering self until we're not here anymore. So anything that I learn culturally, academically, all that stuff gets put into the lesson that I give, be it a child, be it, I also work with special needs children, be it at that level, be it adults, be it a group of young men or older men, or a group of elder women. You handle them differently. You handle queens very differently than you handle young teenage queens. You know, when you step into the room with a bunch of distinguished and beautiful Black women who have gray hair and have grandchildren and great grandchildren, there's a certain kind of panache that you have to get them to do what you want them to do. And you only do that when you've mastered self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you turn around and you're going to go and work with 40 special needs boys from the ages of 8 to 14 and get them to dance. And then you're going to go and work with people in another country and not have full command of the language. And then you're going to go work with professional dancers in different companies all around the world. That's when you've mastered. That is when you've mastered. When you can look at your life and somebody else judges your mastery, not you, because then you get into a false sense of self and you block your divinity, you block your blessing, you block the thought flow of you expanding yourself. We've never arrived fully. I'm not arrived yet. I'm not finished evolving and developing. There's much more I plan to do and intend to do and want and need to do.
Love your perspective, love the concept. And the reason I asked that question is because there are some dance studios around that invite the public to come and take a master class.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're privy to the work that is being taught, and you have to ask yourself, what is master about this class? You know, what is master about this instructor?
Well, you know, it's a title, you know, that people sometimes use loosely. My high school teacher, my first modern dance teacher, and when I got to high school, the teachers were much older than I expected. So I was like, look at this old woman, gray hair, bad, you know, just what could she teach me? She taught me everything. Mm. I had a teacher at Dance Theater of Harlem, Tanique Leclerc. Miss Leclerc was in a wheelchair and she could only move this arm from the elbow down and this from the wrist. And when I tell you I crawled out of that class because she knows her stuff. And you don't, when at a certain level of proficiency, you don't need somebody to demonstrate it. A master is also someone that can talk you in and through, and that's where directing comes in. That's why I said to you, is this clear enough? That's why I keep asking you that. Because as a director or a master, it's your job to give people a visceral, clear description so that they can see it. Because some people need to see, some people need to hear. Those are all the things about mastery that you, as the person that is in charge, have to discern right away. When I go into a room and I have to work with the cast of Black Nativity, and I had 22 people that don't know each other, I have 3 weeks to make them meld to look like one moving body. Mm-hmm. You've got to discern what are their learning styles, how comfortable are they going to be, how fast can I push them against the time frame that you have to work. So that's where mastery comes in. And the only way you do that is if you are masterful of yourself, if you are spiritually centered, grounded, prayed up, whatever your background is or thought modality of that is, you have to have mastered self. And that does not necessarily come on a piece of paper. You look behind it, there's plenty of pieces of paper here. Plenty. So it's not that. It's the fact that I can get a special needs boy that is misbehaving horribly to ask for me, when is Baba Obadiah coming back? Mm-hmm. And when his mother is calling the school wanting to speak to me to say thank you, that's when you're a master.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. What is the number one reason you believe makes it important to get involved in international work?
the world is too big to see this little morsel of it. You know, why have a plate of pasta with no sauce, no mushrooms, no onions, no garlic, no basil, no cheese, no, you know, the world is delicious. You know, and that's the other thing about mastery, studying other cultures, studying other people, how they think. When I'm in Asia, the thought process and the learning process and the sensitivity to who I am is very different than when I'm here. When I'm in Europe, it's different. It's very different. So having all of those experiences in Africa, we left our clothes there. You know, I met a good friend. We're still in touch from right after they lifted apartheid. So that was that was 20 something years ago. So I mean, just traveling abroad. There was a picture that came up. I worked with the Maasai people from Kenya. I co-curated an event for them here. So and they gave me a name. It's Lamayan. Lamayan means when you're a person that has blessed, when you're a person that's blessed, every place you go, you bless other people. So that's what the name means. And they gave me that the day they were leaving. And they sang this wonderful song to me in their language of Ma when they were leaving. So it was another teary moment. Those are the ones where you feel like you feel victorious. Because of the response that other people give you to who you are and to the work. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And I'm wondering if you have an expectation of the host and whether they have expectations of you when you get an invitation to go overseas to do some work.
It depends on the project. If it's, you know, if I'm working on an opera, a commercial, it's always different. My expectations are that you treat me professionally, that you show respect, and that you are consistent with all of your agreed deliverables in terms of the monetary amounts. So once that's taken care of, then you're freed up to do what you need to do. I loved being in Japan because I got to see how hospitality and their culture, it's different than here. When you're in Africa, it's very different. I didn't get to see a lot of Africa when I was in South Africa because I worked the whole time. You know, I snuck away for like a half an hour, then they came looking for me, you know, because I wanted to buy some stuff. So I didn't get a chance to really, really go and absorb myself into the culture. You know, at any place I go, I try to learn a few words of the language. Hello, goodbye, thank you, excuse me. You know, and I write them down so that people are so much more open to give you things when they see that you want something that they have. And again, Americans, we're monolingual. So I made sure that I learned at least one African dialect so that I could be more than monolingual. And then when I was living basically on and off in Japan for 13 years, I had a business partner that was sending me to school to speak Japanese formally. So, you know, because I'd be over there teaching, I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs, and I want you to turn your leg, ah! And no matter how loud I screamed, I realized they don't understand what you're saying. So then I would ask them, how do you say this? So then I would write things down. So whenever I would get to teach, and then when I went home, I would study it. So when I came back in to teach, I knew the word. So that's why you have to see the world. You know, they took me up in the volcanoes up in Martinique, which were, you know, it's now a rainforest. So of course, when I go back to teach class that day, everything I wanted to do went out the window. You know, I had a whole other conversation with God up there. Mind you, I was scared to death because I was up so high. But, you know, and then when you get to the lookout point, you see the sea like you've never seen it before in Brooklyn. It's not like going to Reese Beach, Coney Island to see the sea in that blue and the navy blue. It gives you another concept, you know, like when I went to New Orleans and I went on the swamp tour and I thought about what it had to be like for a slave to have, what was slavery like for them to have to escape through the swamp to get to freedom. And when I realized this is no place for a human being to be, and that's when I realized how much fortitude and determination they had to get away from where they were. I mean, again, that was a cry moment for me. So, you know, I use Harriet Tubman in Higher Ground, Still Rising anyway. But when I came back from that trip, I had a whole different respect for her, and because she did it numerous times. She was Black, a woman, and had narcolepsy. What do you mean I can't figure this out?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I have to tell myself that all the time. What do you mean I'm tired, Obediah, right? What do you mean?
Yeah.
You're standing on the shoulders of people that suffered for you to get here. Step up.
That's right.
Stay focused.
Yeah. What has been a hallmark of your international experience?
Getting the passport.
Okay, we get to the passport.
I would say, because the first time I went out the country, I went to Japan. That was the first place I went. And I had a friend, a good friend, Jamel Graves, who's a choreographer. And I said, you know, I've not been out of the country. I don't even have a passport. I want to go somewhere. And he had been to Japan, and he said, you know, there is a school from Japan and they're coming over to New York they're scouting people. So he introduced me to them, and they saw me. And at the time I was like being a background dancer singer with a house music group that was really well known then. So, you know, I had started locking my hair, and half my hair was blonde. You know, I was a recording artist then, so I wasn't being like I wasn't looking like I was auditioning for a Broadway chorus. I didn't have the little haircut. I do have some of those pictures. I didn't show them to you, but I have them. So, you know, I had a look. So, you know, they looked at me and they liked me, and then they saw me teach. And then they asked me would I like to come to Japan, and I said, absolutely. And so the day I got there, they had the news meet me at the airport. NHK is the equivalent, I guess, of CBS here in the States. So they met me at the airport and they followed me around for 2 days, just kind of documenting what I was doing and me teaching and the hotel I stayed in and all of that. But those times, that was the first time I'd ever been out of the country. And it was an amazing, amazing experience, just to be treated well and to be understood for who you were, for your art, because there was room for Black people to teach over there. And there's so many of us here, so they were hungry for the information that I had. And that's another tearful, heartfelt moment for me for sure. I loved being there because I had clothes that could fit me, because everything was baggy then, so nothing fit. I loved shopping there. I don't like wearing anything that anybody else has. So I love shopping there. I love the customs. I love the culture. My students and I are we're still in contact after all this time. So that those are those heartfelt artistic moments that if you only stay in your community, you never get a chance to evolve yourself, and people never get a chance to experience your Blackness.
And your legacy building too, let's not forget that.
Absolutely, and it is a universal thing if you're thinking that way.
Yeah.
You know, but we have to get out of the mindset of just staying in the four corners of the neighborhood we grew up in. You're such a much more prepared Black man in particular if you're well-spoken. And if you're well-versed in culture, you're looked at completely differently everywhere in the world, because again, the concept of Black men in particular is that of what they see someone on television. And I'm not that, as are many other African-American artists. We're not that. Some of them do fit the stereotype. I'm not one of them. So yeah, get the whole plate of spaghetti with everything on it, and get the dessert, get the wine,
Yeah,
get the non-alcoholic, whatever you get, the whole thing. Don't just get a plate of spaghetti with nothing on it.
I love it. I love the analogy. Let's look at some more of your work, and then
Okay.
we chat some more. I'm enjoying this totally. For those of you who've joined late, I am sitting with Obediah Wright, and from what you've gotten, you know that he has an expansive resume that covers the gamut when we talk theater. We didn't talk about his singing yet, but dancing, choreography, directing, master teacher, artistic director, and the list goes on in the truest sense because we are talking about it here. Let's watch more of Obediah.
Wait. I just want to tell you that, you know, whenever I do an interview on Zoom or something, that I'm always trepidatious about giving the information. Is communication right? I feel so safe with you.
Thank you.
I feel so safe with you, my sister. Okay, we proceed now.
The social worker coming out of me.
Okay.
I hard to do that. So thank you for that compliment.
Yeah.
All right, let's watch.
Oh.
What a treat. What a treat. What a treat. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you joined me late, me as in Rose October, I am sitting with the incomparable Obediah Wright. And we're just watching his work, talking about his work, talking about his work ethics, talking about his work perspectives, talking about his work concepts, talking about him, with him. And this is really, really exciting for me. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I don't know about you.
Actually.
So Obediah, your work has been described by journalists and or theater critics as, we saw clockwise precision, quote unquote, by Jack Anderson of New York Times. I've never seen anything like it. Stephen Snyder of Star Ledger said that. The ensemble punks through Obediah's remarkable choreography, cannily demonstrating the fusion of Black, as in tap, and white, as in ballet, that was soon to revolutionize mainstream American musical theater. And that was said by Matthew Murray of TalkingBroadway.com. I mean, the reviews are outstanding. What theatrical knowledge and skills have you honed to work with theatrical crews and production?
What skills have I honed? Again, we have to go back to mastery. You have to learn what their language is and talk to them in their language. Don't talk to them in dancer language. Don't talk to them in producer director language. Don't talk to them like that. Talk to them where they are. That's the thing that pulls a whole project together. And the way that you do that is when you're assisting someone, you get to see what is their language. If you're working with musicians, musicians don't count the same way dancers do. They count bars. So know how many bars of music it is and equal to how many counts of eight it is for a dancer. They're not going to count bars because they're reading sheet music, they're reading score. So knowing how to have that language, knowing how to convey what you need done in their language is what creates the magic.
Yeah.
Every time.
You know, I'm also thinking that, and I hinted at this earlier on, and especially when we recap on what we just saw in that clip with your work, I'm thinking it's not just the dancers, it's also the crew of the theater. It's the stage crew, it's the house crew. You know, it's everybody that you have to bring into this project to make this project one and successful. So it really does make sense to learn the language and know the language so you can use the language of these different departments, components, if you like.
Yes, and depending upon the size of the project, the bigger the crew. If it's a stage thing, I design my own lights. So either I go in and work with their lighting design, and I'm a very tedious lighting designer because my lights go verbatim with the music. So if you're not musical, you won't hear what I'm saying. So what I had to do was I had to write down at 1 minute, 2 seconds, I need you to bump to this. I need you to fade. So that's what they understand. So I can't go, no, you know when the strings fall, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen, but I come in and everything is technically written out in their language. I also, in most cases, I stage manage my own show. So I'm on headset the whole time. Very rarely do I have the luxury of being in the audience watching my work because I want to make sure that my lighting cues go well. So if I'm running my show, I don't have to have lighting cues because I know the choreography. So I can cue the lighting person, stand by for Q4, go Q4. I can, again, knowing the language. If I'm working with a live band, an orchestra, any of that, knowing the language. The Museum of Natural History flew me to New Orleans to work with Delphio Marcellus. Most people know Winton, that's Delphio, their brothers. And I was the first artist that the museum ever flew out of state to do a project. So you're sitting here with, first of all, he's a Marcellus. Number one, he has a PhD in music theory. So when you're sitting and you're working with people of this caliber, you have to know music. You can't say 5, 6, 7, 8 because they don't hear that. They don't hear it. And they don't have to.
Right.
Now, I have to set, it's my job to set movement to his music.
Yes.
So if I know his language, then after a while, he was like, come on, let's go eat. I'm like, great. Then I got to meet his dad. I heard his father play piano, which was amazing. Here I am sitting with Mr. Marcellus, watching him play. So just know their language. And it just saves you so much time and trouble because there were times when I didn't know the language and it costs production time we don't know. When you're working on a film, a commercial, you gotta be quick. Everything is fast. Film is like $1,000 a minute.
Wow.
So
Wow.
the next day, make sure that your stuff is well rehearsed. And if you're behind that camera, you also, in a commercial, it's not really about the dancer, it's about the product.
Mm-hmm.
So
talking about the product, what has been your best experience to date as a producer?
Always getting the money.
Okay.
Because they were projects that I worked on that I produced or associate produced that the executive producer didn't have the money. So, but you know, those are your learning curves. As a producer, you know what the red flags are. So now I'm a stickler for, you know, just make sure C comes after A and B.
Yeah. Now, is there a production, is there an experience that you've had that you wish had gone differently?
Yes. Yes, there were a couple of those. One in particular. Of course, I don't like to use names when it's not in a positive light, but there was
this reference experience
in particular that was really not pleasant experience all the way around, and then, unfortunately, it ended our friendship.
Oh, okay.
You have to take, and even if you don't take care of me, you have to take care of the people that I bring.
Yeah.
That's important to me too.
Especially, and I totally get that, especially when you're responsible for a crew or you're
responsible for cast, crew, everything. And in this particular one, it was a musical. I was the lead character in it. So I choreographed it, I co-directed it, I was the lead character in it. And I also brought in the other talent. And they did not hold up their end of the bargain financially.
Yeah.
So that was a huge disappointment. Those are hurtful things. So when you're angry, you know, if you didn't have the money, you need to, but now I know what to do about that.
Yeah. Wow. I've had a couple of those myself, so.
I mean, unfortunately, in this business, I mean, you know, now we have agents and managers that help field a lot of that stuff for commercial projects. But you know, when you're friends and you're trying to help one another get projects off the ground, you do need support. You do need friends that can help you come in. Because I've asked friends all the time, but if I don't have money, I say up front, I don't have money to pay you. Can you do this and help out? And either they can say yes or no. In most cases, people have always said yes to me. But I've done that also. But when you don't have the money and you know you don't have it, don't do that, because it only comes back on you in a plethora of ways. You know, I mean, I've had people steal from me from my not-for-profit organization, thousands of dollars. So you know, those kind of things, they sting you, but you can't stop.
Very hurting.
Stop what it does. It can punch you in the stomach, kick you in the stomach, stab you in the heart, and then you know, you're upset.
Ouch. Yeah,
and you hold those things. You hold them, you know.
Oh gosh. Unfortunately, it's part of the journey. You know, we take the bitter with the sweet. We're winding down in time, believe it or not, but we have to watch more of your work for a little bit, and then we'll come back and wrap this up. I am having so much fun. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm sitting with the one and only Obediah Wright. If you are hearing somebody else out there being called Obediah Wright, that's fake. This is the real one. Let's watch more of Obediah's work, and then we come back and wrap this up. I am having me some fun today, folks. I don't know about you. I am sitting with Obediah Wright, and you joined me, Rose October. For those of you who have joined late, you know you can always find a recording on my Facebook page or Organic Cultural Association of New York's Facebook page. I learned that in the beginning, we had some issues getting it onto GCA's Facebook page, but it has been resolved. So you can always go back and look if you didn't catch the first half. Well, the first piece, it's not really the first half. I think we had like a few minutes of that. So I'm sitting with Obediah Wright. And in some ways, the clip we just saw, Obediah, really brings all the different sides of you together, I would say. You know, you as a dancer, you're a performer, you're a director, you're a movement specialist, and I throw in my own thing in there as movement specialist, as you just heard, right? But I think the artistic director, the choreographer, the master teacher, the director, the producer, the founder, all of these pieces coming together. Now, it seems as though it's so much for one person. But we know that you're doing it all because we're talking about it, we're seeing your work, and we can actually feel your work to an extent based on the conversation that we're having. With all of those hats that you're wearing.
And I'm wearing.
How has the pandemic impacted your work? And what have you done to recreate the ways in which you use your craft?
The pandemic has devastated the artistic community. Never mind what it's doing to the world. Me personally, it hit me very hard because one of my students, one of my 16-year-olds who's been with me since she was 7, lost her mom to the pandemic. And I couldn't be there for her. And I know her mom very well. So those kind of things, they hurt. At this point, at first, you know, I did way too much meditation and yoga. If I stood on my head one more day, you know, we're really at a loss creatively for anything that we can do. So I started writing. I started catching up on some projects that I needed to get done. I'm devising a system of movement for mature people because that's very important to me as we mature, dancers, singers, actors, people that are non-physical. The body is changing, and in the middle of this pandemic, the stress is harboring itself in the body, in the cells, in the tissues, and in the organs. So I'm working out a system to begin to alleviate some of that. So as soon as I finish the trademark, I can tell you what it is.
Okay, all right.
So that's what I am working on right now. I've had time to be home and cook, which I like to do, and eat, which I like to do also. And that's been it. I had time to reacquaint myself with my family. Just all those things. I miss being an artist. You know, there's not much space in here for me to jump around. I found amazing music that I want to create to when we can create in person. And I'm just writing out the next chapter of the life and using this time to not just live in the fear of the pandemic and all of the overt racial inequalities and injustices that we've been seeing, just holding all those hurts that we're witnessing. Just writing, that's been very therapeutic for me to just get my thoughts out since I can't get them out with my arms and my legs. So it's a different animal for me because I don't do it as well as the other one. The other one is very quick. This one is like, it's like my piano lesson, actually. It's like my piano lesson.
Yeah, yeah. So
the more I do it, it's coming.
So this could be an uncomfortable question too. And I'll ask it anyway. What do you want to become when you grow up, considering the pandemic?
Happy,
Okay.
whole, complete, emotionally and spiritually sound,
Good.
emotionally and spiritually astute, financially comfortable enough that I can take care of myself very well, my loved ones, and my organization.
Nice. Love it. What a lovely way to end. What a lovely place to end. Obadiah, I want to thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been my total. Can we do this again?
I'm sorry?
Can we do this again?
Yes, why not?
More stuff to show you. You know, I got plenty more.
I want to thank you for sitting and chatting with me and sharing your knowledge, wisdom, insight about your world so that we can learn about the artistic arena from your perspective. And I want to say to the viewers out there, for more information on today's guest, Obediah Wright, please check his Facebook page, check Vimeo, check YouTube. You put him there, you put his name in there, information will pop up. Did you want to say something else quickly as I
You can email
Okay.
us, the organization, at Balance Baba, BALANCEBABA @gmail.com. My Facebook is full. I can't have any more friends, so I have to upgrade. I'm on Instagram, and that is Aminfodia, AMINFODIAH. Aminfo was a word that means perfect or best. When I was training my young men's rites of passage group, that was one of the African words that they nicknamed me, and Aminfodia, so that's the end of my name.
Okay. Yeah. And if you guys didn't get a chance to write it down for whatever reason, you can always contact me and I'll get it to you. But as I say, thanks to my guest, Obediah Wright, and to you all for viewing and joining us on Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. I must acknowledge a few individuals. You know, I have to do it. I have to, they keep me up. They raise me up. Claire and Goring, who does the flyer every week. Marcio Gordon, who is working on the YouTube channel for the show. Yasu Narayan, who's helped with the website building. Dr. Raul Manzano, who's done the logo. He's actually painted the logo for the show. We're working on this. And of course, Mr. Raul de Silva, who is the man behind all of this, making this run seamlessly with his assistant today, Samuel Williams. Sammy, thank you for coming through and for working along with Raul. These individuals unselfishly give, and I have to say thank you to them. To all of you who continue to support by joining Arts, Culture, and Things in Between every Sunday from 3 to 5. Cannot thank you enough. I'm giving you a virtual hug as I ask you to continue sharing and liking and going on the YouTube piece that I don't tell you enough of. And please, please spread the word. We look forward to you joining us on Sundays at 3 o'clock. I'm your host, Rose October, wishing you safety, good health, and a productive week ahead. And again, thank you to Obediah Wright, our special guest.
You and to everybody that's watching this and that is going to watch this, I'm just prayerful that we stay safe and we stay sane and that we stay healthy and that we stay holistic and that we find ways to grow within the middle of what seems like an unexpected turmoil. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye for now, everyone. See you soon. Have a great week.